Hey, how you doing? Back in the workshop again. I'm just going to say, stop wasting money doing upholstery classes and doing all this learning of upholstery. People put these things together. Oh, a weekend of upholstery, and you get your dinner and you get your breakfast and you get a sleepover. You know, don't don't waste your money on it. You only learn how to do upholstery when you have a gun in your hand. A staple gun in your hand. To buy the stuff, to buy the cheap stuff is not expensive. And if you can master how to use the cheap stuff, then, be the best you can with that cheap. There's no point in buying the best stuff because you'll not be good at it. You're better off buying you can buy a compressor for less than €100. You can buy a staple gun, a 71 staple gun for less than €100. You can buy a hammer, you can buy a pliers. They're all cheap stuff. Buy them cheap. It's the only way I feel, me personally, to learn is the hands-on. Get in there, put your hands on it. Get it. Don't buy a big suite of furniture and say, "Oh, I'm going to recover this." No. You want to buy a small chair like these, a simple chair with a simple seat, a simple back. There's 8 chairs there. There's 8 chairs all together there. If you were to start the first one, yes, you're going to make a mess. You know you are. You're going to make a mess. But you have to look at the first one and go, okay, what can I do on the second one that I won't make that mistake again? And I'm sure by you get to the 8th chair, you'll have mastered the seat. Do you understand? That's the only way you learn. I can show you how to do the seat, but what happens is I end up doing the seat. You're learning, I'm showing you, but I'm doing the seat for you. The only way really you can learn is by doing it yourself. I could spend weeks, months, years teaching people upholstery. But if I gave you a chair to recover after your 10 weeks or 12 weeks and asked you to do the chair, you would make mistakes. You'd make a massive amount of mistakes. So that's why it's easier and better if you just go and buy the cheap Black & Decker compressor and the staple gun, and do it that way. It's start small. Start very small. Start with a piece of wood and a piece of foam. Just start small, and then you learn as time goes on. You can there's loads of YouTube pages. I have YouTube pages. Go have a look at it. It explains what you need. It'll explain about a compressor and the cheap versions to the dear versions, how long they last. You're not doing upholstery full time, so you don't need a massive big compressor. You don't need massive staple gun and all these staples. Just start very simple. You could spend days, hours, weeks reading books. You could spend it looking at YouTube videos, looking at Instagram videos, looking at whatever videos you want. But until you pick the tools up in your hand, you are not going to learn. You are not going to learn. And one last piece of advice which really pees me off. When you see on YouTube people, women especially, with lovely nails and they're all manicured and all that, they are not upholsterers. They are not upholsterers. If you see all of the rings are still on their fingers and they're sewing away, they are not upholsterers. They're just people who are trying to get you to feed into it. This is what upholstery is. Dirty. It's smelly. There's dust everywhere. I've got to wear a mask. I've got to wear gloves. It's not clean. And you're not going to learn it overnight. You have to learn by practice. How I learned was I ripped out furniture. I took apart a seat. That's how I learned. My father said you need to disassemble before you can reassemble. So disassemble it. We've got phones now. We can take loads of photographs so you'll know what it was like before and what to do after. Start with something simple. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video.